Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. And I think it's right at the hour, so we can also go ahead and start the session. And my name is Tamara Pataki. I am leading the community relations team here at Verbi Software, the creator of MuxQDA. And we have the honor today to welcome Johnny Saldana, who will be talking about introduction to qualitative coding and data analysis. This will be an interactive workshop, so you will find a file in the chat where you can also follow along, and you will find the exercises. Johnny Saldana is a professor emeritus at Arizona State University. His research focuses on qualitative data analysis and arts-based research, and he is the author of seminal books on coding that you might already know, such as The Coding Manual for Qualitative Researchers. And he also wrote the book Developing Theory Through Qualitative Inquiry. We are very excited to have him today as a speaker, and it's really an honor to have him present with us in this lecture by MuxQDA. The presentation and the workshop will last for 60 minutes. At the end, I will give you a short tour of MuxQDA and show you how you can use the software for what you learned in this workshop, for coding, for taking memos, and for your qualitative analysis in general. I will be also addressing some of the AI capabilities. We will be waiting with the Q&A session until the end. If you have questions during the session, you can also post them in the Q&A section that you can find at the bottom of your screen, and we will be addressing them at the end. In the bottom of your screen, you will also find a subtitle feature. If you would like to turn that on, you will be able to see automatic live subtitles. We are also recording this session, and the recording will be uploaded to YouTube, and we will share this with you in an email. You will also get access to the slides. So with that, I think I covered all of the housekeeping questions. We are also here to assist you in the chat, but I would like to hand over to Professor Saldana now. Thank you very much again for joining us today.
Thank you, Tamara. I'm very honored to be invited to be part of this. For our workshop today, we'll be taking a look at introducing novices to qualitative research about two approaches to qualitative data analysis: coding and analytic memo writing. We'll be reviewing the basic principles of coding's purposes and how they prompt analytic reflection through memoing. And then toward the end, we'll be talking about how we can use AI as a component of our analysis. There are no standardized terms out there. There is no blue ribbon panel or standards committee out there who says these are the official definitions for terms that we use for analysis. So what I present to you are my own understandings of terms as they relate to qualitative data analysis. Because I come from a background in film and theater, I use film as methods pedagogy. In the United States, there's a game called The $100,000 Pyramid. And in this television program, the way it works is that there are two people participating in the game. A subject is revealed to one of the partners, and this could be considered a category or a theme. And one player has to give her partner a list of clues or codes in order to get the person to determine what their pattern is so that they can then deduce the subject, the category, or the theme. Now, for the rules of the game, the clues or the codes cannot contain any words in the subject or the category or the theme or be overtly descriptive. Well, in qualitative data analysis, we have some leeway with that. However, in this particular game, you have 6 subjects that must be completed in 60 seconds. So let's take a look at the video clip, and then we'll talk about what the terms are on the other side of it.
For $100,000, Victor, here's your first subject. Go.
Pigeon, seagull.
Kinds of birds.
Private, lieutenant, sergeant.
A person in the military.
Oh, I'm almost due.
Something a pregnant woman would say.
Yeah. Because it's raining outside. Because it's
Why
hot.
you would have a
Because I don't want rain to fall on me.
why you would have an umbrella?
Yeah. Your nose, your runny nose,
Things you wipe.
your
Things-
sick nose,
things
your
you blow.
LA traffic, LA traffic lanes.
Things that are congested.
Yes. Your tie, your television brightness, your
Things that are colored.
your necktie, your crooked necktie.
Things you adjust.
It would be wonderful if after every time we made an analytic insight, there would be cheers and applause and somebody would give us $100,000. But that doesn't happen. And so we have to be happy with intrinsic rewards. So let's review the terminology for this workshop. I define a code as a word or a short phrase that symbolically assigns a summative, meaning it condenses it, salient, that which stands out, essence capturing, when you try to capture the juice of something, or evocative, such as a metaphor, that is an attribute for a portion of language-based or visual data. So as an example from the game, when the contestant said pigeons, seagulls, those were examples of codes. Now the other contestant had to determine what those things had in common, or in other words, what was the pattern. And I define pattern as repetitive, regular, or consistent occurrences of action or data. So that when we heard the codes private, lieutenant, sergeant, the other contestant had to figure out what do all those things have in common. Then when you find out what all those things do have in common, then what we do is we phrase that as a category, which becomes a word or a phrase that labels the grouped patterns of codes. So that private, lieutenant, and sergeant, the pattern was they were all part of military ranks. Now, I define a theme as an extended phrase or a complete sentence that organizes and identifies what a group of repeating ideas is about or what it means. And you'll find, and you'll notice actually in the literature, that sometimes people say, well, I created a theme, when actually what they created was a real short category label. So for me, a theme is an extended statement, so that, for example, when the contestant said something a pregnant woman would say, that was long enough to me so that it merits a theme. Some of you may be new to qualitative inquiry, and you may come with a very strong quantitative background. And so I try to help people with that quantitative background find the analogies. On the left side of this slide, you see the formula at the top for calculating the mean or the average. And underneath that, we have 5 scores, which total up to a number. We divide that number by the number of scores, and we get the mean or the average rating of 76. Now, if you take a look at the right side of the screen, this is what we do with qualitative inquiry. Rather than working with numbers primarily, we're working with words, with language. There was a study done called The Lived Experience of Gratitude. It was a phenomenological study. And here they, of course, knew ahead of time what they were looking for. But when they talked to the over 80 people about what they experience when they have a sense of gratitude, such things came across as warmth, thankfulness, sensations in the heart and chest, awe, acceptance, comfort, security, and blessedness. Well, when you bring all of these together, you're not trying to determine the mean or the average. What you're trying to do is determine the pattern, what they have in common. And so we label that pattern in the form of a category, gratitude. However, the researchers now take it a step further because they were doing a phenomenological study, and you want to create thematic statements. And so for them, one of the key themes was feelings of gratitude occurred naturally and spontaneously in 3 domains: the personal, interpersonal, and transpersonal. So I say that quantitative analysis calculates the mean, but qualitative analysis calculates meaning. I saw that some of you were asking, will you be getting copies of these slides? There will be a PDF of the slide set sent at the end of the workshop. So let's go now first with codes and coding. I said earlier that a code in qualitative inquiry is most often a word or a short phrase that symbolically assigns one of four things: something that is summative, salient, essence capturing, or evocative. Now, coding, however, is not a precise science. It is primarily an interpretive act. You bring your background experiences, your research questions, your methodological choices, your value system to the research enterprise. And so two people looking at the same data may not code it the exact same way, but that is all right. Coding is just, by the way, one way of analyzing qualitative data. It is not the way. There are other methods. It's just that codes and coding have over a half century of use in the field. Now, the reason that we code is it forces us to really reflect deeply on the meaning of every single qualitative datum that we're looking at. And we code in order to help us find and construct patterns in the data. And it's from those patterns that we're able then to develop more analytic outcomes, such as categories, concepts, themes, assertions, theory, and other analytic findings. The overall goal of coding is to condense, not reduce, the data. If I were to reduce the data, what I would be doing is I would be simply taking a small portion of it away, and that's all I would have left. But when I'm condensing the data, I'm still retaining all of the data that I have. I'm just simply putting it into a more compact form. Now, categories, which is the next step up from coding, are composed of codes that look alike and feel alike. And trust me, it's no more complicated than that. What categories do is they embody and label the patterns that you found and constructed from qualitative data analysis. Now, a category label actually shares the same kind of purpose as a code. It too is also a word or a short phrase that symbolically summarizes evocative attributes of the data. In the United States, each state is represented by its own unique state flag. And that state flag could serve as a code, if you will, because what it does is symbolically summarizes the state's history, its value system, something that is important to it. And then when you bring all these 50 different United States flags together as codes, what they do is they create the category of the United States flag. And the United States flag also has symbolic summary to it, because the 50 stars symbolize the individual 50 states. And the 13 stripes represent the history of the US, representing the original 13 colonies. I say that each room of a house is like a category in which relevant patterns of human action occur. So that in the category that you see circled in red, which is the kitchen, some codes that might be attributed to that category would be things like food storage, meal preparation, after-school snacking, gossiping, plates, things like that. So now, if you could please open up your chat box, because what I'm going to ask you to do now is to post in the chat box single words or short phrases of things or actions, in other words, codes, that would be located or occur in this room that's circled. Some would call it a living room, some would call it a family room. So if you could please post now in the chat those short phrases, single words, or short phrases of things or actions that would be located or occur in this room. All right. And I'm simply taking a look at what people are posting. And a lot of you are coming up with the same things, such as relaxing, for example, conversation, reading, watching TV, so that there are a variety of codes that we could put together that represent now this particular category. and keep them coming. Now, here is something important to note about the difference between a category and a theme. Think of a category as a word or a short phrase that describes some segment of your data, but a theme is an extended phrase or a complete sentence that describes more subtle and tacit processes or meanings. So that a category label might be a kitchen, but a theme or a thematic statement would be a kitchen is the soul of a home. So keep that in mind as we go on with our data today and our workshop exercises. Here's one more analogy to get you thinking about this. I saw this on Facebook in a meme, and I thought it was quite clever, but I changed the labels. If you're familiar with Legos, they are individual pieces that children play with and assemble into different kinds of figures. And you might think of your qualitative data when they come in as being a vast array of sort of, so much coming to you, like interview transcripts, field notes, documents, social media texts, and so forth. Well, how do we organize all of this? Well, one way we can do that is through coding. And you can see that what we've done with the Legos is we've begun to put them in some kind of organizational array, in this case by color. When we start transforming those codes into more compact categories, what we're doing is giving that those datum a bit more of an organizational array, so that now what we're doing is we're creating some general kinds of stacks. When we start coming to themes, what we're doing now is taking those categories and expanding on them or unpacking them. And we're placing our themes in some type of ordered array, like from less to more, from most important to least important, from background to foreground. And then when we use our Legos to put together into the story of our research, what we're doing in our final report is creating, if you will, the house of our study. So that's just one analogy to think about how we deal with the individual components of qualitative data analysis. I found this illustration in online, and I liked it so much that I bought it from the artist. Originally, the picture shows a woman in therapy, and she's meeting with a psychotherapist. The client is talking about her problems, her issues, and as you can see in the bubble above her, all of these thoughts are very confused. She can't quite see the picture or the patterns. And what she's doing is she's telling her story to the psychotherapist. And what the psychotherapist is doing is helping the client see these patterns, these things that she may be unaware. She's helping bring some order to the chaos in the client. Well, in a way, this is also what we're doing with analysis. We're taking the mess of our data, which could be vast arrays, and we're transforming them into some type of organizational meaning through coding. And what we're doing as the analyst is building on those codes to develop higher order outcomes, such as categories or themes. I use this video excerpt as a way of just sort of bringing us together for a data analytic exercise. In the 1960s, there was a very famous book called Happiness is a Warm Puppy, and it was based on the Charles Schulz's Peanuts comic strip. And it was just simply a collection of prompts of like what happiness is. And this was turned into a song for the musical You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. We're going to listen to the very last song in the musical called Happiness. And what we're going to be doing is seeing how those individual song lyrics could be codes. And what we'll be doing is analyzing those codes into categories and thematic statements. So for right now, let's just go ahead and take a look at the scene. And when we come back from it, we'll work on it.
I guess it hasn't been such a bad day after all. Happiness is finding a pencil knowing a secret, telling the time. Happiness is learning to whistle, tying your shoe for the very first time. Happiness is playing the drum in your own school band. And happiness is walking hand in hand. Happiness is 2 kinds of ice cream,
Pizza with sausage.
climbing a tree. Happiness is 5 different crayons, catching a firefly, setting him free. Happiness is being alone every now and then. And happiness is coming home again. Happiness is morning and evening, daytime and nighttime too. For happiness is anyone and anything at all that's loved by you. Happiness is having a sister, sharing a sandwich, getting along. Happiness is saying together when day is through. And happiness is those who sing with you. Happiness is morning and evening, daytime and nighttime too. For happiness is anyone and anything at all that's loved by you.
For purposes of the analytic exercise, let's pretend that what we have done is just heard and interviewed some children about what happiness is to them. And so what we'll be doing is thinking of these as what are called in vivo codes. In vivo is Latin for in that which is alive. And when we in vivo code, what we're doing is using the actual language of the participant as our symbolic summaries of what they told us. Let me go ahead and post for you again in the chat the file which includes the lyrics. If you have the ability to open the file and download it and print it if possible, it would be wonderful to work on hard copy. If you don't have downloading or printing capabilities, don't worry. All the data will be on the screen. All right. Here is the lyrics for the song in the order in which they occurred. And we will use these as, if you will, in vivo codes. They already told us what happiness is to them. And this is the world of the data with which we're working. Certainly children from, let's say, unfortunately, war-torn countries, happiness would be something completely different. But this is the world of the data with which we are working. One of the analytic strategies that I find really helps me, it's a very simple heuristic or a method of discovery, is to put them in alphabetical order. If you downloaded the file, this is the second page of that file. You have all the lyrics now placed in alphabetical order, and in fact, you can do the same with your codes with a Word document. You just simply select all the codes, click Data Sort, and put them in ascending or descending order. One of the things that I do is I start just simply taking a look at my codes, because remember that we code in order to find patterns. And so what I do is as I look down, I see if there are things which seem to cluster together. Here, for example, I see this same code being repeated twice here. Anything, anyone and anything at all that's loved by you. The same thing here. daytime and nighttime, morning and evening. And so just simply by what's called eyeballing or analytic browsing, you come to some type of understanding for, let's see, what kinds of things might be going on here. Well, then what our next step then is to begin categorizing them. Think of these now as our individual Lego pieces, and what we have to do now is put them into appropriate piles or clusters or groups. So that, for example, I might see that daytime and nighttime too, and morning and evening. For me, these look alike and feel alike because they relate to, in some way, to time. And so I'm going to say, okay, for me, that's going to be one cluster or one category. Now, if you have, of course, so much more time, you can do the exercise with a little bit more thought. But for right now, what I'd like to ask you to do is, in the chat box, if you could please post together what 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, maybe 5 things that you would put together to say, these codes look alike and feel alike. You don't have to name the category label yet. Just simply say, these go together. They seem to fit together into some kind of category. So please now post in the chat box those in vivo codes, those individual Lego pieces that seem to look alike and feel alike. Maybe what? You would put together food things like sandwich, ice cream, pizza. Or maybe you might put together other things such as, let's say, walking hand in hand or getting along because they have to deal with relationships. So I'm seeing some wonderful things being posted in the chat. So again, continue to do that. And I'm just simply taking a look at what people are posting. And you should also as well see if other people are also kind of on the same line as you. Yeah, I love working with the gifted group. Wonderful combinations here. And I'm just taking a look at what people are posting. Now, of course, if you were doing this exercise in, the comfort of your own workspace and you had more time to unfold, what you would be doing is working with all of these different bullet points and trying to bring everything into particular groups. Workshops are always artificial because all we do is just give you a small taste of how something might work so that you can build on it when you work on your own. Here is how I clustered or categorized the different happiness codes into groups that look alike and felt alike. So that you see on the left side at the bottom, I put my 4 in vivo codes because they dealt with time and they just seem to go together. But now take a look at, let's say up here at the top, finding a pencil, 5 different crayons, 2 kinds of ice cream, and pizza with sausage. So that for me, those things seem to go together. I don't have a category label for them yet, but that comes later in our analysis, all right? So we've gone from codes to clusters or groups. Now it's time to think about how we transform those now into kinds of thematic statements. Coding provides the detail, but theming provides nuance. I jokingly say that theming is coding on steroids. Remember I told you that a theme is an extended phrase or a complete sentence that identifies what a unit of data is about or what it means. And so what we're doing is, in qualitative data analysis, condensing. We're going from data to codes to categories to themes. And so what we're doing is we're getting more compact and condensed with every single analytic step. Here's some quotes to just simply think about as we go on. Victoria Clark, who is one of the key thematic analysis methodologists, said, sometimes your data will tell you how they want to be analyzed. I thought that was very perceptive of her, because what we're doing is thinking, well, okay, now with my data, should I just stay with categories, or do I build them into themes? Do I go into other analytic outcomes such as assertion, concepts, theories? Well, a lot of it depends on what your research study is all about. Another thing is that themes do not emerge. They are constructed by you, the analyst. You'll see in a lot of the research literature, people will say, oh, 5 themes emerged. Well, they don't come out of thin air. You are the one who determines what the themes are. Brown and Clark also say that a theme captures a moment. It tells a story. And that, too, I think is a very evocative way of thinking about how a theme might be, let's say, a very evocative kind of, let's say, almost life lesson or proverb, all right? And one thing I heard at a conference, a student said that his professor told him, a theme is nothing more than a song title. Well, some song titles are very, very short, but other song titles, again, seem to capture the essence of what that song is all about. So these are just a couple of things to keep in mind as we now build on from our codes to our categories to our themes. What I'd like to ask you to do now is to think about either your own categories, or if you wish to just work with the categories that I've listed here, feel free to do so. Our next step is to determine, okay, now that we've got these particular clusters, how do we label them into thematic statements? So that, for example, I might say that finding a pencil, 5 different crayons, 2 kinds of ice cream, and pizza with sausage. Well, how can I put that into a sentence with a thematic statement that begins with happiness is? And for me, I'm going to say that happiness is access to joyous resources. And where did that theme come from? Well, for me, again, my own experiences come to this. Well, 5 different crayons are great, yeah, but if you know the Crayola packaging, if you got a box of 64 different crayons, oh, you have just been given the world. For me, pizza with sausage is my favorite topping for pizza. That gives me great joy. 2 kinds of ice cream, again, something that brings me joy. Finding a pencil, I'm always doing that. At conferences, I pick up as many pencils and pens as I can, even though I don't need them. For me, it's a joyous gift. So for me, that's how I phrase this particular cluster or category. Happiness is access to joyous resources. So now what I'm going to ask you to do is to post in the chat box 1, 2, or 3 thematic statements from your preliminary analysis of the song lyrics of what happiness is. Now, if you wish to use some of my category clusters, feel free to. But if, however, you have a different way of putting together what happiness is based on what we've looked at thus far, remember, we're staying with the world of the data, then go ahead and post those in the chat box. I'm seeing wonderful things like happiness is mastering a skill. Happiness is being in community with others. Happiness is doing things with people. Happiness is being outside. Happiness is being around those you love. Yes, so what you're doing here now is taking codes, transforming them into categories, and from those categories, you're building onto them by expanding them into thematic statements. And yes, you're doing exactly what the purpose of this exercise is. Keep them coming, keep them coming. You're doing great work. And in addition to your own input, take a look at what others have been posting to see if they too have come up with the same kinds of ideas. Happiness is food. Yes. Oh, yeah. Going out to eat for me is wonderful, joyous. I don't have to cook. Yeah. Learning new things, being with others, being in control of your environment, taking actions. All right. Wonderful things. Wonderful things. People are always asking me, Johnny, how would you analyze the data? And so I just offer to you how I approach the analysis of this. Certainly, if you were working on your own time, on your own schedule, you would be able to flesh this out with a lot more analytic prowess. But for me, I'm just simply showing you what I did in my time. What I did was I put together 5 themes. For me, and you can see how you and I are sometimes on the same page. For me, my 5 themes of happiness are: happiness is access to joyous resources. Happiness is independent accomplishment. And you can see that under each major thematic statement, I put the different in vivo codes that help support that thematic statement. This is good data management, but it's also being a good, credible, and trustworthy researcher. You're showing your homework, all right? My 3rd category, happiness is a sense of familial community. Happiness is daily awe. And that came from my 4 time-based codes. And then my 5th one, happiness is introspective and personal. So what we do now is we take our themes, and what we do is we arrange them in some kind of outline or hierarchical order. Giving these 5 themes, this is kind of, I'm not saying an artificial way of doing your analysis, but it's just one way of thinking about now. Is there one theme out of these 5 that seems to, if you will, bring everything together? In post-structuralist, postmodern approaches to qualitative inquiry, they discount that idea of trying to bring everything to one grounded theory or one key theme. They feel that life is too complex, messy, and complicated. And if that's the way you wish to work, more power to you. That's not the way I wish to work. I don't want to read your messes. I don't want to read your confusion and your unanswered questions. I want answers. And so for me, I always try to give my readers answers. So here what I'm looking at is now, out of these themes, post in the chat box, if you were to try to bring everything together into one theme, major thematic statement, what would you tell your readers? What would you share with your audiences about what happiness is? What you're trying to bring is the totality of the song into one thematic statement. Now, it's not going to come at the drop of a hat unless you're absolutely brilliant, but it takes some time to think. Good ideas, like good coffee and good tea, need time to brew and steep. And so you can go ahead and post your initial idea. And maybe later on, as you continue thinking about the data, maybe another statement, a richer statement, will come to you. But for right now, you're just simply posting what to you might be your first draft of an analysis about what happiness is. And it's almost here where you become theoretical. It's at this point that you become very philosophical. You become conceptual. You become abstract. And this is one of the higher order thinking processes of qualitative analysis. So we're going from very simple song lyrics to some very rich conceptual ideas. And I'm taking a look at what people are posting, and you're coming up with some beautiful things. Yeah, happiness is not as simple as you think it is. Happiness is actually contextual because happiness means different things to different people. And so it is kind of hard to come up with those kinds of all-encompassing statements about what happiness is. But in the English language, we have over 1 million words from which to choose. So the possibilities of coming up with a thematic statement are endless. All right, so let me show you what I came up with. For me, of my 5 themes, the one that seems to stand out the most to me is happiness is daily all, meaning that for me, happiness it's a state of mind. It is an awareness of all the things around you that could make you happy. Now, there are the 4 other remaining themes that go under that. For me, the second or the first sub-theme is happiness is introspective and personal. In other words, it is your signature, your individual way that you become happy. And for me, the 2 sub-themes that would come under that is happiness is independent accomplishment, meaning it's something that you intrinsically reward yourself with. But yet, happiness can also be access to joyous resources, the extrinsic things that make us happy, those actual things that we can hold and do. And then my second sub-theme is happiness is a sense of familial community, meaning that you feel that you belong to a group, that you have relationships with other people. All right? So that for me is how I would put together the different themes. One of the things to also think about is how we can stay with in vivo things. And in fact, I think some of you did that in the chat. The term emic, or an in vivo theme, means it comes from the actual participants themselves. And if we were to say that the key theme of happiness is the song lyric, happiness is anyone and anything at all that's loved by you. If to you that says it all, and you can't say it any better, then that's your thematic statement. However, we can do a researcher-constructed or an etic theme. For me, my key theme was happiness is daily awe. None of the children and none of the lyrics said that. That's my way of putting together what happiness is. So is one more effective than the other? That is up to you to decide. And in fact, is there a way that you can combine these 2 into a new thematic statement about what happiness is? That's another heuristic or a method of discovery that you have available to you. Now, thinking about the data, codes, categories, and themes. Methodologist Robert Stake said, good research is not about good methods as much as it is about good thinking. When we start creating our themes, Timmermans and Tavery cautioned us, we are not in the business of compiling lists. If the takeaway of your analysis is, we identified 3 themes in the interviews, you have a lot more work ahead. A taxonomy of topics does not constitute an argument. So just as coding is in service to thinking through analytic memoing, theming is in service to developing an analytic narrative that explicates the data's meanings and their interrelationships. So with analytic memos, codes are prompts or triggers for writing about the deeper meanings that they evoke. And when you compose an analytic memo, what you're doing is creating for yourself some intellectual workspace. You're having a site of conversation with yourself about the data. Because the theory goes that writing is thinking. What it does is it helps dump your brain in print. It documents your analytic reflections about the data. Now, if you could please just post a few things here. An analytic memo about your themes thus far. You have posted some wonderful things, but what you need to do now is to start unpacking those wonderful condensed meanings. What we do is start writing in the chat box just a couple of sentences, again, because for the workshop, we have just a limited amount of time. An analytic memo is something that's done on your own schedule, on your own time frame. But think about one of these 5 prompts that you might use to think about how you can unpack a theme that you've developed this far. You could write about how you personally relate to the data, the participants, or the phenomenon. Write about what you find intriguing, surprising, or disturbing, which comes from Sunstein and Chauceri-Strader's book on fieldwork. You can talk about some evolving patterns, categories, themes, concepts, assertions, or propositions? Do you see any possible networks, links, connections between some of the things? Or do you feel that, do you want to put together an evolving or talk about some kind of relating existent theory? So now, if you could please just post a couple of thoughts about what's running through your mind about the lyrics of happiness that we've been analyzing thus far, and some of your thoughts about how you put together certain types of thematic statements. So just a few sentences, please, in the chat. And in fact, even just questions that you have for future reflection, those are just as valid. All right? Because this is sort of your personal journal. It's like a research lab journal. This is where you begin to now think about the deeper meanings of your codes, your themes, your categories. All right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm just reading some of the things that are being posted. Very good stuff being posted here. All right. Wonderful thoughts coming through. And this is just, again, a small taste of what an analytic memo can be. It is anything from a paragraph to several pages that unpacks your initial analytic work. Here are just a couple of thoughts that came to me as I was thinking about my themes and my categories and all of that. Just to read a couple of things, this first paragraph. I noticed that I didn't include the code love in my thematic statements. I was more struck by the morning, evening, daytime, nighttime of the lyrics, meaning happiness is realizing the awe of life around you every second of the day, that happiness is the little things that get accomplished, a sense of personal achievement. Based on all the gerunds or the ing words in the lyrics, happiness is processual action. I myself am not a happy person. I'm grateful for what I have. I've been lucky and blessed, but there could be much more to make me happy. I keep trying to remember that happiness is also a state of mind. Some people live by what a colleague called chronic optimism, and I wish I could be that way. Happiness comes to my life in little ways, not through little things. The big things make me happy. So I continue on with my particular analytic memo, and when you get the PDF copy of this, you can read the rest of it. Brown and Clark have a wonderful analogy. Think of the solar system as a metaphor for your central theme, represented by the sun, your related themes and categories as the planets that revolve around that central theme, and the moons and satellites and rings of each planet as a sub-theme, a subcategory, or a code. Now, because we have technology surging to the forefront now in data analysis, we also need to take a look at how artificial intelligence, and specifically for me, ChatGPT, how that affects our qualitative thematic analysis. At this time, experiments with qualitative data analysis by ChatGPT kind of give mixed results, because it gives you a good initial catalog of the data's contents, but what you will need to do is expand on what the program gives you to reach more interpretive levels of insights. Nevertheless, Christo says that AI has the potential to significantly alter the process used for conducting not just thematic but qualitative data analysis. So, some caveats with ChatGPT. I've been experimenting with it over the past year. At this time, it can only go so far at this stage in its development. It is not perfect yet. Missing from the program's analyses are all these things that you see listed here. It does not have the ability to evaluate with judgment. It does not have the capacity for detailed literature reviews. It does not have creative vocabulary. It does not have ethnic or racial or cultural literacy. It's getting better at astute emotional intelligence, but it's not quite there yet. So overall, I would say that if you're going to experiment with AI, it can assist and supplement, but it does not replace the human researcher. So in other words, we've still got a job. When I experimented with ChatGPT, I put in the prompt, extract the themes in these song lyrics, and I inserted all the happiness song lyrics. Now, I made a big mistake here. I should have explained to ChatGPT first what a theme is. And because what it gave me really were categories, just like some human researchers. But this is what ChatGPT-4 said. The song lyrics represent a mosaic of life's simple pleasures and the warmth of personal connections, weaving together themes of joy, discovery, and togetherness. The themes extracted from these lyrics include. Now, they gave me in bold what the themes were, and then afterwards, ChatGPT gave me a little bit of explanatory narrative. It even brought in some of the data points to help support its findings. So I'm not going to read the accompanying narratives, but just the theme titles. ChatGPT said that there is joy and simplicity, discovery and growth, connection and togetherness, the value of time, nature and the outdoors, creativity and expression. Overall, these themes together form a tapestry that celebrate life's simple moments, the journey of growth, and the deep connections formed through shared experiences and expressions of creativity. Now, overall, I think not bad at all, really. But one of the important things to do is to remember that what you need to do is to compare your analysis, which should come first, with ChatGPT. Think of it as a kind of a research assistant, a second opinion, a novice colleague. It does not have the final word. But if you can sort of compare your themes with ChatGPT-4 themes, and here's mine compared to ChatGPT's, one of the things that I notice is that our themes seem to be, if you will, I feel that mine are more conceptual and abstract. For me, ChatGPT-4's themes are a little bit more reality-based. What I do is I draw arrows of say, okay, a solid arrow means that we're both agreeing we're on the same page. A dashed two-way arrow means kind of, sort of, but not really. We kind of come close, but maybe because of vocabulary choices or different kinds of ways of summarizing the data, we didn't quite come to the same conclusion. What I do then is I just simply, for myself, map a simple percentage. How much do we corroborate? Not correlate, corroborate. And so for here, it was 66% approximately corroboration. What this does now is give me the opportunity to go back to another analytic memo, to do a lot of reflection and thinking, okay, how do my themes and ChatGPT-4's themes corroborate? So overall, remember, a theme is an extended phrase or a complete sentence that identifies what a unit of data is about or what it means. Our goals are to winnow down the number of themes to explore in a report and to develop an overarching or key theme from the data corpus, or some type of integrative theme that weaves the various themes together into a coherent narrative. Remember these points. Sometimes your data will tell you how they want to be analyzed. Themes do not emerge. You construct them. A theme captures a moment. It tells a story. And a theme is nothing more than a song title. You can learn more about qualitative data analysis through some of the titles that I've written, but there are also some books that specialize in qualitative thematic analysis. And when you get a copy of the slides, you'll have access, of course, to these particular book titles. There is also a brief recommended bibliography of additional resources in thematic analysis. And there are also a few online resources. Brown and Clark, who are the two most well-known thematic analysis methodologists perhaps in the world, have their own website, thematicanalysis.net. You can also find from the qualitative report a selected list of thematic analysis articles. Now, we'll be going to questions and answers when Tamara feels that it is the most appropriate time. One of the other things I wish to draw your attention to is that in the PDF, you will find some supplemental material. These are visual displays of thematic analyses that I've pulled together from several academic reports. These are ways that, for example, that you can show your homework to your readers or to your audiences of how you got from codes to themes, how you might use visual ways of representing your thematic statements, and how you got from codes to a theme. So these are just simply some good ways that I found that visually help you think about how you can put together how your own thematic analysis and how you went from codes to themes can be documented. All right. So let me go to the Q&A slide. What I am going to do now, Tamara, is I'm going to post in the chat box the PDF of all the slides that I've just shown, so that if people wish to download it, it will be there. For now, we turn it over to Tamara, who will build on the work that we've done thus far and integrate it now with MaxQDA. So stick around. There's a lot more to learn.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for the material as well. We will gather all that and send you a follow-up email so that you will have all this material in your inbox as well, in case you are not able to download it at present. And as Professor Saldana mentioned, the plan now is that I would also give you a short introduction into how you can use what you learned here, and how you could apply that in MaxQDA, because QDA software can help you to implement all of this at one place. So I am aware that some of you already know MaxQDA, and I have seen so many familiar faces here in the chat. But what we were thinking that for those of you who might not be familiar with that, it could be a very interesting experience to also see what tools the software offers to help you in your qualitative data analysis, and to also enhance your workflow. I will be sharing my screen with you in a second, and I think that right now you can already see my screen. So just let me show you a couple of features that I think can come in handy with your coding process. So if you have not seen it before, this is the MaxQDA interface, and MaxQDA is a qualitative data analysis software. It is a standard software with a standard installation that you can install on your desktop. And what you can use it for is that you can import all your documents, and you can gather everything that all your pieces of data that you are planning to analyze at one place, so you do not have to deal with different files on your computer or different printouts, but you can have everything neatly organized. And here, right in MaxQDA, you can also view this data. This is the second window. What you can see, you can view, you can edit, you can analyze here. And in MaxQDA, you can also gather all of your codes. we have an option for a hierarchical code system that also allows you to accommodate not only your categories but also your themes. So you can have multiple levels of hierarchy, and you could also include higher level themes here. We have a fourth window that is the retrieve segments window. That is sort of a search tool that allows you to see what are the results of your analysis, which codes might appear in which documents. So the coding process in MaxQDA is fairly simple. If you find something that you would like to code, a piece of your data that is particularly striking, you could simply highlight that. You can create a new code. You give it a name, and here you already have a space to start your writing and to create your analytical memos, for example, in a form of a code memo as a code definition, for example. And you also have the option to include comments that give you an additional level of reflection. You could also explain, for example, why you think a particular code could be applied to a part of your data. Once you have done that, the following thing will happen. You will have your code assigned to your data here. So the particular text segment that you highlighted will turn your code color. You will have your coding stripe on the side, and your comment will be included here as well. Your memo will be saved directly with the code. So here we have our coding stripe and our comment. Your code system, as I mentioned, can be built up in a hierarchical way, and here are all the codes visible. You can also see their relationship to each other. What are categories? What are themes? How do they relate? Whether or not you have applied a memo, those are the sticky notes that you can see here. And you can also see the frequencies, how often they appear in your data set. If you have created all this, you can also print everything out. So if you would like to use it for your reporting or your writing, you can use the reporting features. We have two features that are quite interesting for exporting your coding, for example, the Smart Publisher and the Codebook. This would give you a PDF or a Word format of all your codes and your reflections that you created in MaxQDA, so that you can further incorporate it in your writing. You can also create analytical memos right in MaxQDA so that they stay close to your data. And in fact, when you are creating your memos, you can also treat them as part of your data, as very relevant observations that should be traceable throughout your analysis. And for that, you could use the type label feature, for example. So you can sort your memos by giving them distinct categories, whether or not they talk to your research question, your theory, or they are a methodological reflection. You can use these labels to search through your memos, and you can also export them as well if you would like to further use this in your writing. And I would also like to tell you more about the AI features that MaxQDA offers. You can not only code with ChatGPT, as you heard, but we also have our own take on AI-assisted tools. And the reason why they are called AI-assisted MaxQDA is because our idea would be that the AI should rather be used as an assistant. So the idea is that it will not tell you how to analyze your data, but rather it would enhance your data analysis workflow by giving you suggestions and pointers. So you could think of it as your very own research assistant. What you can do with it is that you can ask AI Assist to summarize text passages as a memo for you. So you could see a more condensed version of what is happening in a particular passage. You could also ask it to suggest and apply codes for a passage. So when you are thinking about how it would be interesting to code a particular segment, you have your theoretical framework in mind, you have your research interest in your mind, so you already have some ideas of how you would code something. However, it could be very helpful to have an additional perspective or to have additional inspiration. So you could think of it as sort of an explorative approach where you could also take the AI suggestions into considerations. It can offer you both thematic and interpretive codes as well. We also have a feature that allows you to auto-code your documents with predefined codes. So if you have a particular code in mind that you know that you would like to have applied in your data, you could give it a definition and ask MaxQDA to search through a document, and it would identify segments that they think would fit with that code. Here, I think it's very interesting to use it as sort of a research assistant, but also something that can be contrasted with your own coding. So what I did is I also I had a coded data set that I coded for one of my papers, and I ran it through the AI coding. And what I found was very, very interesting was not the parts that both the AI and I coded, but to look at the segments which only I or the AI have coded them, to compare and contrast in a way how we just seen that in the workshop. So you could do that with MaxQDA as well. In addition, it also has the capability to suggest some subcodes for you for already applied codes, and it can also create automatic summaries for coded segments of a code. So it is very handy when you have maybe 20, 30, 40 segments in one code. It can give you further pointers of what's exactly going on there, which can be interesting if you would like to further break it down and maybe create some more subcodes. And last but not least, it is also possible to chat with your documents and coded segments. So just as in other chat-based programs, you can also prompt MaxQDA and ask questions of your assistant. It can point you into directions, tell you where a particular topic appears. It can give you suggestions. It can help you swift through your data and identify what are themes that could be interesting for your further analysis. This is what I wanted to show you about all the capabilities of MaxQDA, and these are some of the features that I think would be interesting if you would like to code with a QDA software. And maybe a last note about what we are doing. So if you are interested in events such as this one, we warmly welcome you to join our free webinars. We have webinars every single week. We also offer lectures, research sessions where you can also see how other people are working with MaxQDA, and you can see some real life workflows. We also organize conferences and events multiple times a year. We have our own publisher where we offer manuals, guides, and more literature on software-assisted qualitative data analysis. And we have a video library and a user forum where you can also network and exchange with other software users. We can also find us on social media, and my colleagues will be posting all the links down in the chat on how you can stay in touch with us in the future. And with that, I would also like to end my presentation and get back and take a look at the questions that you were posing. And thank you very much again for being with us today. It was so lovely to see all the interesting thoughts and all your coding exercises in the chat. Looking forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you, everyone.